Work Nights by Erica Peplin. Full disclosure, I got an arc of this, so I read an early copy. This isn't the finished, final, sent to print, complete version. They might change some things, but probably not enough things to make this a good book. This is a pretty short literary fiction novel about a 20-something-year-old lesbian named Jane Grabowski who works in New York City in advertising for the local paper. She hates her job. She finds all of her coworkers super shallow, and she ends up in a love triangle with the intern of the paper and this musician she meets through a friend. I'm gonna have to spoil this book to talk about it because this is mostly gonna be like a rant, analysis, complaining session. But don't worry, that's not so bad because the description of this book spoils it. I'll just read the description to you verbatim. 20-something Jane Grabowski hauls herself to her office job at New York City's most acclaimed newspaper to sit in stale air under severe fluorescent lights and mask her rage by sending emails with too many exclamation points. She does that once, by the way, at the end of the novel, not the beginning. You'd think that would be something that's like early setup. You'd think the description would be like the exposition to the book, the lead up to the book, in like the first act. All of this is from like the third act, except for the fact that she has a shitty job, which she has the whole book. Caught between her office crush Madeline, the beautiful media intern, and Addie, a decidedly uncool and morally righteous musician, Jane finds herself pulled down a slippery path of lies and betrayals until a plane ticket threatens to take everything down in one fell swoop. So that's the third act of the book, where she buys a plane ticket to see one of the girls who has moved away. That's literally the final conflict. That's not the inciting incident, that is the final conflict. That's like the last 40 pages of the book is 240 pages. That's the end of the book. So that gives away basically everything except who she's running to see or like what the plane ticket's about. But I'm gonna spoil all of that in this video because I have to talk about it. So I can't quote this book because it's an arc and it's not the final product, and it specifically says you can't quote it, which makes sense because they might change the lines. So I'm gonna do a lot of paraphrasing. This is a book that I really want to quote because some of these lines were fucking dumb. So I'm gonna do some paraphrasing of the ideas that were in here. Actually, I'm gonna quote it. Because I think, I'm going to check the, like, Amazon or whatever page to see if there's a preview of this book. Sometimes you can see a preview of the first chapter early, and I'm going to check that line to the print version, and if this line is the same in print, then it will be included in the video. So the first love interest we're introduced to is Madeline, the intern. She gets introduced on page 1, and this is how their love story starts. The only thing that made going to the office remotely worthwhile was my fixation on a 23-year-old intern named Madeline Navarro, who had seemingly no interest in me. We'd met briefly in the dining hall, and I fell in love with her for no reason. That's the first love interest of this book. That sums it up. Madeline, terrible love interest. Very flaky. All of Jane's friends call her the straight girl because she doesn't want to use labels, and, you know, she's, like, questioning her sexuality because she's, like, 23. Whatever, that's fine. She's very flaky. She stands her up on dates, like, goes out with her, but, like, denies that it's a date, and, you know, just literally isn't that interested in her, like it says. And like it says, I fell in love with her for no reason. And that's literally what happens. There's no reason for Jane to be into this woman except that she's pretty and she's attracted to her. She's a terrible partner. And then contrast that with Addie, who is a musician we meet about 100 pages in, which is another complaint. I'm gonna get to that. We meet Addie about 100 pages in. She is just a normal person. This book calls her uncool and morally righteous, which just means she's a normal person. She just wants to, like, communicate and not play weird games where they stand each other up and, like, don't talk about their feelings. She doesn't get drunk every weekend. So Madeline has a thing where she just talks about how she went out last night and did a bunch of drugs and she doesn't even remember what she does. And then she stands Jane up, and I'm like, wow, what a great partner you could potentially have in her. You know, I'm really hoping they get together. You're not. So Addie's just a normal person, and Jane's into her, kinda. At first she doesn't really seem to care, but then she's like, yeah, I guess Addie's pretty cute. So she like flirts with Addie. They go on like a date or two or whatever. They meet up and talk. And Jane, being a horrible person, I'll get into that. Jane's like super casual about it. She's got this crush on Madeline that she's had forever, and she's not gonna give it up even though it goes nowhere. And she realizes that Addie's like a normal person who's looking for like a real relationship, and she's really not that interested. And so every time Addie opens up, she's like pushes her away, you know, like flakes on their dates is awful, just like Madeline's awful to her. And so you don't want Addie and Jane to get together either, because Jane is awful to her and then cheats on her later. Because you realize Addie is way too good for Jane, and Jane is too good for Madeline. Jane's a terrible person, and that does not change by the end of the book. That's fun. So Jane ends up in sort of this love triangle where she keeps getting rejected by Madeline, but Madeline kind of like slowly comes around and is like more and more into Jane, and then they kiss and then they hook up, and you know, she starts to feel like she has a chance with Madeline, and so she kind of like keeps her on the side like a side chick, and then eventually she falls in love with Addie for some reason, and like says she loves her even though like nothing changes her between her being pretty ambivalent to Addie and her being like, yeah, you know, this is kind of my girlfriend now. So even while she says she loves Addie, she's like talking to Madeline. So she cheats on Addie. She flakes on Addie on her dates. I don't know why Addie even likes her. I understand why, like, their initial meeting, Addie's attracted to her, but like Jane's awful and like flakes on her multiple times and is like clearly talking to other women and is not a good partner. So I don't really know why Addie stuck around that long. I expected her to like blow Jane off after the first bad date, because they immediately get off on the wrong foot, and there's no like previous happiness that binds them together at all. It's just a bad start, and Addie's like, I'm mad at you, like you're kind of terrible, like you keep blowing me off, keep talking to other people, you said you were gonna text me, you didn't text me, you kind of suck. And then she keeps going on dates with Jane anyway, which is whatever. Which I guess mirrors Jane's relationship to Madeline, who does the same thing. But Jane's like irresponsible, and Addie is the responsible, normal person who would not put up with this. Jane will put up with this because she's terrible and has no self-esteem. So I wasn't interested in any of these relationships. None of these people should have been together. They don't in the book together. I kind of liked that. I didn't know where, I thought this was gonna go where she ends up with Addie because Addie's responsible, and by the end of the book she kind of likes Addie more than Madeline, but Addie is eventually like, you're fucking cheating on me, fuck you, which is good. So no one ends up with anyone, which is good, but like not very satisfying. Because Jane doesn't even realize, she realizes that she messed up, but she doesn't really like apologize to anyone. She doesn't have a moment where she's like, wow, I really need to get my shit together and like really change my ways. And she has basically no personal growth at all through this book, which is really bad because she has no personality. This is a very bland character. There is no internality to this main character. She does not want anything. That's kind of her point, is she's very discontent. She has this shitty office job that she doesn't like. She has a crush on this girl, Madeline, just because it's something to do. You get the sense that she's very content, and she needs just something to latch onto to get her through the day, and that's the fantasy of this straight girl who's not straight, but she thinks she's straight. And so she has nothing, but she has no aspirations, she has no career goals. There's not like a job that she really wants that she can't get. She doesn't want a promotion, she doesn't want a family, she doesn't want to settle down. She, I don't know, doesn't want better friends. She has like one good friend kind of who's like a roommate, and then she knows about 9 million people, which I'll also get into. So she's not really close to anyone, but I don't know what she wants. I don't know anything about this character. She has no goal. There is no driving force of this novel. There is no like, I am going to win over Madeline, I'm going to help her come out and realize her sexuality. That's the end goal of the novel, and that's what we're doing. There's no even like, I'm gonna figure out what I want. I'm really disillusioned, I have nothing going on, I need to do something, I need to get something going for me, a hobby, a new job, something, anything. She doesn't know that. She doesn't do any of that. She just is discontent and seems like she's just gonna sit around and just hope that things magically get better. And they kind of do with Addie for a time, where she's like, wow, I'm like really happy now that I'm kind of in love, even though I'm cheating on her. And then she like goes to work and she doesn't hate it, and she thinks all of the gossipy bitches at her office are kind of endearing in a way, even though they're all pretty terrible, and very flat characters. But they kind of have more personality than Jane, who's just awful. The only thing you know about Jane is that she's a cheater and a liar and is not a well-adjusted adult. She doesn't really apologize for the cheating. She doesn't reckon with it. And she's also terrible at work. Like, she steals an idea from one of her coworkers and tells it to her boss. And then the boss gives her credit for the idea, even though she didn't come up with it. And at first she tries to gaslight the woman who did come up with it. She's like, oh, he said I said that? No, he probably got us confused. We look pretty similar. People say that. Which obviously the coworker doesn't buy. And then she's like, oh, the coworker addresses her and is like, you stole my idea. And she's like, it was for the good of the company, don't worry. And the coworker's like, you don't even care about this company. You don't even like this job. You're just fucking shitty. But they don't really hash that out. It doesn't go further than that. It's like passive aggressive, like, oh, I know what you did. And then she doesn't apologize for it. There's no blow up. She doesn't get fired for anything she does. She's not a good person. She sort of knows she's not a good person, but she just doesn't ever say anything. There's no reckoning. There's no reckoning to this book and her behavior. And no, like, change and no, like, dedication to I'm going to be a better person at the end of this book that you'd expect. Because that's how books work. This character doesn't change. She's just like, well, that was a shitty few months. And then this book ends, like, with her on a park bench with her best friend, who's also, whatever, her friend's an artist. Something. Her gallery show didn't go well. They're sitting in the park feeling sad for themselves, and they're like, we'll be okay. Like, wow, that's not satisfying at all. So not where I expected this to end. The only thing I can really give this book is that I was kind of excited to get to the end. Like, I wanted to know what happened. I kept reading because I couldn't predict what was going to happen, because most books have things happening and plot structures and character arcs, and this book didn't have that, so I didn't know what it was going to do. I liked that none of the terrible people ended up in a terrible relationship, but that was about all that I liked. And now that I've read it and I know what happens, it's not worth reading. You might think to yourself, like, oh, what's gonna happen? I want to know. It's not worth it, man. Don't worry about it. There's another problem with the writing and the relationship. Like, again, there's no defining plot moment where Jane goes from being ambivalent toward Addie to liking Addie and seeing, like, oh, like, this could be a good relationship for me. I might love her. That just kind of comes. It just happens. And there's a repeated thing where Addie keeps telling Jane, like, you have to talk to me. Like, I don't play these games. I just want a normal relationship where we talk. You have to talk about your feelings. You have to open up. And Jane doesn't like that. Every time Addie does that, she's like, she backs off. She gets scared. Her commitment issues come to the forefront and she deflects, pushes it away. But then the scene where she finally doesn't push it away, there's no catalyst for her finally opening up either. There's just a scene where Addie, once again, for like the third or fourth time, says something like deep and, vulnerable, something about herself. And Jane is like, her being vulnerable made me want to be vulnerable too. I can't quote the exact line again, but that's the summary of that plot beat. And the way she says it like, finally, someone I can open up to. But Addie has been like that and been asking her to open up this entire time. Addie has been a safe place to open up the entire time. She could have talked to Addie at any point. She could have talked to anyone at any point. So it's not actually a moment of her feeling comfortable enough that she can talk to someone and be honest about her life. because she could have done that at any time. Really what the line should have conveyed is, okay, finally I'm now ready to open up. Because of whatever happened, nothing happened to make her open up, to be honest. But it should have been, finally, now I'm ready to talk, instead of, finally, someone I can talk to, because that person was there the whole time. So that was a bad line. I didn't like that. Oh, there's also a really dumb line. I couldn't tell if it was being, like, dumb on purpose, like, tongue-in-cheek and, like, self-aware or not. God, I fucking wrote the quote, because it was... I can't quote it. I'll paraphrase the quote. Jane's on, like, a spree where she's meeting up with, like, these random girls from, you know, the internet or friend groups or whatever. She's dating around, and she has, like, a one-night stand with this girl, but then, like, flakes on her, and the girl just ghosts her because Jane ghosted her first. And Jane has a line where she's like, the girls in New York are smart. Like, once you expose yourself for being fake, they cut you out of their lives. But the entire book is about dumb girls in New York who absolutely do not do that. Madeline flakes on Jane a million times and Jane still goes after her. Jane flakes on Addie a million times and Addie still goes after her. So, like, what was that line there for? Why did you say that line? That is antithetical to every single thing that happens in this book. So just cut that line. You're not going to see this. I'm not going to publish this before the book's published, so if that line's there, I hope it's not. But if it's there, it doesn't make any sense. Another major issue, the pacing of this book. The pacing's real bad. The first 100 pages of this book, bad. Bad, not good. Oh my god. The scenes in this book are so short and unimportant. It's so much of the book is like that. Again, there's the 100-page mark when we're introduced to Addie, the second love interest. That's when the writing starts to get a bit better. There are longer scenes, which is infinitely better. Because like, all of the scenes in this book, most of the scenes in this book, even in the later part, but especially in the first 100 pages, the scenes are like 1 to 2 pages, and like they're just so fast and they're so brief, and you get so little out of them, and it really doesn't do anything except establish that she's got a shitty office job, and she likes Madeline, but Madeline doesn't really like her. It's so much space to say so little, and you absolutely do not get to sit in these characters at all. Around the 100-page mark, we start getting longer scenes, especially when she goes on the dates, and we start actually seeing these characters and getting a sense of these characters and of the world they live in and like how they talk and who they are, and just like actual scenes, which is refreshing. I don't think this author is a bad writer. I wish she wrote actual scenes more often. If she wrote a book that was much slower paced, it wouldn't solve the character issue problems. Actually, it might, because you'd have more space for internality and like getting to know the characters. But the pacing needs work, mama. I don't know why I said that. So like, these scenes are so brief, and there are so many characters. Oh my god, there are so many characters. Everyone has a fucking name. You get introduced to about 9 million coworkers, and again, Jane goes out like all the time, so she has all these friends and friends of friends and friends of friends of friends, and you just get every single person's name ever all the time, even though they're not important, even if they never come back. There's so many names in this book, and for just like people you don't need to meet, scenes you don't need to have. There's a point where she goes to her boss's house for Christmas, and of course we have to meet the boss's wife, or sorry, the boss's fiance. And of course we have to meet the boss's fiance's mom. And of course we have to meet the boss's fiance's mom's girlfriend. Even though these people get like one paragraph, half a paragraph. By the time we get to the mom's girlfriend, it's like half a paragraph. I'm like, I don't need to know if that woman's there. I just don't need to know that. You meet so many people. Should just go to a party for like 1 page. And it's like Tasha and Nigel. I don't think there's anyone named Nigel. Probably is. She probably ran out of names. There's someone named Zinc. Interesting. Was there like Matrix? I don't think it was Matrix. Maddox? I don't know. There's too many names. You cannot remember them all. Like, very early on, I was like, every time a new name is introduced, I was just like, I'm not gonna remember this person. They're probably not important. could have really cut down on 80% of the side characters. All of the work people were like basically the same, very interchangeable, except for like the goody two shoes girl who actually had good ideas, who kept getting overlooked for promotions even though she was the only competent one. And then there was some lady who like came in drunk and almost got in trouble, which Jane knows she comes in drunk and is like really loud and disruptive and annoys everyone who is doing actual work. And Jane gets called into the office and is like, "Have you seen any suspicious behavior from this person? Do we need to let them go?" And Jane's like, "No, she's great. She's a really hard worker." And so that weird drunk lady who just annoys everyone gets to keep her job because Jane's nice to her for absolutely no reason. Even though she spends a lot of this book mocking her coworkers, I guess, I can't really tell if she likes these people or hates them. I think it's like both, but there's no internality. Like, we don't really get Jane's thoughts. We just watch her like sit back and observe the world, and she just has no thoughts. She has no opinions. She has no soul. She's just like she's just a very boring blank slate. And then she'll just like lie for no reason. And when she lies, it's not like, oh, we sort of understand why she's lying. Sometimes we do, but sometimes it's like, why are you talking like that? Why are you saying that to this person? Just like have a normal conversation. Like, what are you doing? Like, what are you thinking right now? We don't know. I think this book's also supposed to be funny. There's so many random lines. Like, every single office scene, again, which is like one page, like especially in the beginning, there's just so much. Like, you get all of these little tiny scenes and they're all so brief and so meaningless, and you don't get to sit in them at all, and it's so weird. But every time there's dialogue in this, especially in those short scenes, and especially with like the co-workers, there's just some weird quirky line of dialogue that I think is supposed to be funny. It's so random. It's the most random humor. Someone will just say something outlandish, out of the blue, impromptu, and it doesn't go anywhere. And I don't know if that's supposed to be like funny and like commentary on how people are weird, and like they're framed as very normal people with boring office jobs. And, you know, just like everyone else in the city, there's a point where Jane's with like a group of friends and they're trying to call a cab, and there's a group of girls on the other side of the street that are exactly like them that are also trying to call a cab, and they have to check the license plate to make sure that it's their Uber and not the other girl's Uber because they're exactly the same. And that's like clearly supposed to be some sort of a statement on, I don't know, the human condition and how we're all so similar and we're all just boring, but there's interestingness in the boringness, and we're all quirky and have our little things that are interesting and fun, and actually life's worth living because you're gonna go to the office and Karen is gonna say something just fucking weird for no reason, and that's life's little pleasures. I don't know if that's what the book was trying to say. I don't know what the fuck this book was trying to say. I really don't. And I was trying to figure it out. I was really trying to do some mental gymnastics. I think I could write like an essay on this if I had to. Talking about, I don't know, boringness and its perception, and how we're all boring and discontent and no one has their shit together or something. But even that's not interesting the way it's done. And I don't know if it's supposed to be funny. I didn't laugh once, not a single time. Because I noticed pretty early on that we were getting all of these just weird one-off lines, like weird one-liners. And I'm like, is that supposed to be funny? So I kept like waiting for it to be funny and tracking like when was the first time it would make me laugh. When would one of these jokes land? The answer is never. I did not laugh once. I saw a review for this that someone said it was laugh out loud. It's not. I didn't laugh once. I oohed out loud once. No, there's a quote on this back. I read this quote and audibly went, ew. I'm gonna read this to you. This is from Anna Dorn, the author of Perfume and Pain. Reading Erica Peplin's sharp debut, I developed an ill-advised crush on Jane Gabowski, who has aversions both to monogamy and washing her hair, but is so charming. This character has no charm. She's a blank slate with no personality, and all she does is lie. All we know about her is that she's a cheater and a liar, and doesn't like her life, but also doesn't want anything from her life. And she doesn't wash her hair. I don't even remember saying that, but it does say that she wears like the same clothes 3 days in a row or something. Why would you like this character? Why would anyone like this character? Why do the people in this book like this character? That made me not want to read Perfume and Pain. That's a book I've heard of that I've had on my TBR forever. If that author wrote characters anything like this character, I don't want to read that book. That bumped Perfume and Pain down on my TBR list. That's what that quote did. I don't know what she's talking about. What are you talking about, Anna Dorn? You gotta have better standards than that. What's wrong, man? Who paid you to say this? Did they pay you? Did they pay you? Was it Simon or was it Schuster? So that made me go, ew, because this character's not likable. None of these people are really likable. The most likable character is Addie, who's just a normal person. But also I thought she was dumb because she liked Jane for no reason. She can't be that hot. I'm sorry, but she can't. She's cheating on you, man. She's not that hot. I think I need to be done. I should have structured this review better. I should have like plotted this out. The overview, first 100 pages, bad, meaningless, absolutely could have been condensed. Way too many random short little scenes that do nothing. You just need the setup that she works in this weird shitty office. She doesn't like it. She likes the intern, but the intern is a flake who doesn't really like her. That's all you need to set up. And then you can introduce Addie before the 100-page marker. And you could also write some longer scenes. Please write longer scenes. Again, I think the author has some potential in just like the prose. It's not exceptional prose, but like the scenes where things were actually happening, those were interesting to read. For the most part, I was getting into it, and then it would take me out and go to some really dumb short scene. Condense your characters, but again, I don't know if like that was the point, to like show up a bajillion people and to be like, we all have lives and all of these people are the main character of their own story. And I mean, she lives in New York. It makes sense for her to know a bajillion people. I just don't know what the message was. I don't know what the point of this book was, because she doesn't grow as a person, so it's not like a character growth journey. I don't think it really says anything profound about the human condition and like dating or your mid-20s and being very restless. Because again, okay, it's like she doesn't figure out what she wants to do with her life at the end of this book. She ends up quitting her job, what she wants to do, even though like it starts to seem like she likes her job. Like when she's happy with Addie, she goes into work and she's like, this isn't so bad, you know, and it's a paycheck, and maybe I could do the normal person thing and be just a functioning adult with an office job. So she doesn't seem to hate it that much, but then she ends up quitting because she thinks she's going to move to Berlin with Madeline, who moves to Berlin because she's a fucking weirdo. She's also getting deported. I think she's from Guatemala or something. So she's all over the place. She's going home to Guatemala. She's whatever. And she sort of convinces Jane to come live with her in Berlin for a bit. So Jane plans to do that. But then at the end of the book, Madeline's like, you're kind of cheating on me with this other girl. Like, I liked you, but you're seeing this other girl while I was in Berlin, and I don't think you should come to Berlin and live with me after all. But she still has the plane ticket, and she still quits her job, and so presumably it sounds like she's just gonna go to Berlin for no reason. There's nothing that she wants there. She only really wanted to go for Madeline. She's not going to see Madeline there. You don't get the sense that she's going to reconnect with Madeline. If anything, she might reconnect with Addie, who's like a real adult, but she lives in New York, although she's going on a tour, so maybe she'll just briefly go to Berlin and see the fucking world, travel, because she's in her 20s. Ooh. So like, I don't know what she's going to do at the end of this book. I don't know where she's going. She didn't figure her life out. She doesn't know what she's doing. I don't know. Like, there's just no resolution. I don't know. I didn't like this book. I'm torn between 1 star and 2. Because it wasn't good. And like structurally it's real bad. The pacing, oh my god, the pacing's awful. But it is like readable. That's the redeeming quality. Like I was turning the page. I wanted to know what happened. I read it pretty fast. I tried to read like a certain page count a day, and then I was reading past that because it's easy to get through because it is so fast paced, unfortunately. So like it's readable. but you're not satisfied after reading this. I wouldn't recommend this book over like any other book. I also saw a review that compared this to Emily Austen. Get Emily Austen's name out of your mouth. Absolutely not. Emily Austen knows how to write characters and pacing. Emily Austen's books are nothing like this, except that it's a literary fiction about lesbians. I don't know. There's some potential here. I think this author, this is a debut. So again, I think this author could do better with a slower paced book, with better characters, and like less everything. Just slow down. That's what I would like to see from this author. Not that she's watching this video, but not horrendous writing on a prose level, but pretty bad writing on a plot, structural, character growth level. So every other level except the literal words on page. Oh. So like 1.5, 1.75. 1 feels mean. I mean, it's not good, but it's not like the worst thing I've ever read in my life. But it's not good. So like 2 stars. 1.8, 1.9. 1.9 feels good. Yeah, unfortunate. I think this author has done short stories before. Maybe they're more experienced in that, and maybe those are better. But this one was a miss for me, big time.